Welcome back to the video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be doing our range test with the Audi SQ6 E-Tron. That means we're going to be driving behind the truck at 80 to 100 kilometers an hour, 120, 140 and also top speed, which this car can do 230, but we have winter tires, so 210. When it comes to the size of the car, a fairly bulky one. We have a CV value of 0.3, so not a very efficient one. We do also have the optional air suspension in here, so we can lower and raise the car to get a little bit more efficiency of that. Otherwise, you don't have any vents here going towards the side to lower that drag coefficient, which is a little bit unfortunate. We have a very big battery in here, which has a claimed range of around 550 up to almost 600 kilometers, 100 kilowatts in our battery size, with a net usage of 94.9, with a consumption between 17.5 up to 18.4 kilowatts an hour. So we'll see what we get on our different tests. When it comes to the tires, like I said, we do have the winter tires on here. So again, not the most efficient one, which are going to be Bridgestones, which are 255s in the front and 285s in the rear, so fairly big ones as well. We'll get behind the truck now and see what range we get. And with all that being said, you join me now here sitting behind the truck driving around 80 kilometers an hour. Always depends on how fast the truck in front of us is going. We're going to set it into Efficiency Plus, which is basically turns off most of the things in the car, dims also the screen, and you just see the basic things that you need. And other than that, there is really not much that you can see now. We have adaptive cruise control, very nice, with a heads-up display which has augmented. Why can't I say it right now? Augmented reality. There we go. Jeez. Which looks very nice. Shows you everything that you need. Shows you the speed. Shows you the distance to the car in front. Also shows you the radar where it basically where it shows the truck in front of you. Pretty nice to see. We're gonna look at what we get now with 80 kilometers an hour behind the truck. While we're doing that, let's talk about the interior and the quality of the car. How does it feel? The car is gonna set you back 110,000 euros the way it's standing here, with a starting price of 93,800 euros for the SQ6. If you want to get the Sportback variant, you're gonna be sitting at around 96,000, so 3,000 euros extra of price, or 2,500 that you're paying there. But I kind of like the normal one more because you get more space in the back. I'm also not the biggest fan of how the Sportback looks from Audis. In general, I'm not a big Sportback fan. But otherwise, quality in here is fairly decent. You will notice there is a couple of new changes to the car. You obviously have the new steering wheel, which is not my favorite because, first of all, it's not that well built in my opinion, and the touch sensitive, well, not touch sensitive, they're still buttons, but they also have a little bit of a touch sensitive because you can slide them. I don't like them too much. There's a lot of better options out there. I personally just like the older one, new, with also the new logo on here and the S badge on there. Otherwise, you get this Alcantara on here, which does feel nice. You get if you get the Tech Pro, you get the second passenger display, and there's another truck going past us. You get the passenger display, which is nice. You can look at YouTube, but in general, you're not going to use it much. The only time I've used it is if you put in navigation or something like that, or you're looking for information regarding your destination. You can look on there, but otherwise you don't really need it. But you get it with the Tech Pro, so some people will even get the Tech Pro because for better light, sound system, and stuff like that. So it's just an add-on you have on there, so don't complain about it too much. Otherwise, one thing I really don't like is the new digital cockpit. We've had it on the A5 where the quality on there is really bad, like very blurry, and I thought it was just with the A5. But in the SQ6 here, it is the same thing. It is blurry, it's not sharp. I don't know what's the problem there. The infotainment display looks perfectly fine, but this one is still blurry and I have no idea why. Audi, please fix that. Otherwise, you get a lot of new piano black. You get these new buttons on the side, which really don't look too nice. So I'm not the biggest fan of what they've done to the interior, apart from with the displays and stuff like that. That does look fairly decent, but otherwise not the biggest fan of it. You can also get ventilated seats. We only have the heated seats here with massage function, which I'm actually going to turn on because I do want those, and they're always quite nice. Not the most intensive ones, but still fairly decent. You can also get a panoramic window if you're looking for that. But otherwise, let's drive this car now in here at 80 and see how far we can get. You can see quite a busy road here, so we're going to have to see how we're going to be able to manage with the 120 and also the 140 and unlimited speed test, which we're obviously going to do afterwards. And here's also a quick view of how it looks like in the heads-up display when everything is activated and you're basically looking at the radar that the person in front of us is driving. You can see that with those lines in the front. And this is how also it looks when you have an Efficiency Plus. What I have also done is plugged in the route here to our charging station. As you can see, we only have 148 kilometers of range left. So I've plugged in the route to our ENBV or ENBW charger, because if you do it with the navigation in here, so not via Apple CarPlay and Google Maps, but in the navigation of the car itself, you will be able to get the preconditioning to start up. I have not found an option that you can do it manually, so you will have to plug something in order to actually get the preconditioning activated. Then you're going to be able to charge a car at a very fast speed, because it does have the 800 volt architecture, and we're going to cut to that now to see how fast we can charge this car. So let's see what we're able to charge. So the car is supposed to have a peak of 270 kilowatts. We were able to get a total of 157.4 kilowatts at its peak, and the average was 124.6. We were charging from around 16 up to 80%. That took us a total of around 30 minutes. Claimed is 21 minutes, so a little bit longer, but still for a peak where it claims 270. The peak is not really that important. It's always how the average is, of what the average speed is. And 124.6 is definitely not bad. 30 minutes, if you're going for longer trips, most of the times you will have a 30-minute break, and then you're going to be moving on. What we'll get for the range here, we'll look at that in a second. The battery, like I already mentioned, is 100 kilowatts an hour. Net usage is 94.9, so you should be getting fairly far, but the consumption on here is also quite high. You have a port on both sides, so you have one on the right and on the left. On the right side, you're only going to be able to charge it with AC, so at your home wallet or wall box, and on the left, you're going to be able to charge it with DC up to those 270. We're standing here on the right side because of the lights just a little bit better. But like I said, we have done a test previously where we also got a peak of around 220. Now we only got that peak of almost 160, but still I think 30 minutes is fairly doable. Since the last time I spoke to you, quite a lot has happened. We've already done our 120 kilometers an hour test, because we're currently doing it with two cars, so the Audi SQ6 and also the new Cupra Tavascan VZ, which is also the full electric variant of the Cupra. And we're going to we're doing these at both times, so to be efficient, because one test basically takes like 4 to 5 hours with an electric car. Always depends on how long the charging speed is. But the thing is, I was going to show you the charging speed of the car. However, due to the fact that the charging ports were so busy, we were only able to charge at 150 kilowatts charging station. So therefore, I wasn't completely able to use the speed of this car. So we were sitting there for around 45 minutes to go from 30 to 80%, because we had an average of like 70 kilowatts, because at the start we were charging both cars at 150, so both of them were only doing around 50 kilowatts. At the end, when we only had the Audi SQ6 on there, we were at around 100 kilowatts charging speed on there. Otherwise, this car could go, it showed me up to 300 kilowatts. We'll have to see that in the future test, how well that goes. If you want a full review of the car, top right corner here is going to be the full review of the car. Otherwise, we're cruising here now at 140 while trying to. It is fairly busy today, so our current speed is actually 120. And the thing is, even at 140, the isolation here is quite nice. You will notice a little bit of tire noise due to the fact that we do also have winter tires on here. So they are going to be a little bit louder, but otherwise a very, very comfortable and nice cruising in here. You do also have the adaptive air suspension, which is nice. Does smoothen out quite a lot and does change the stiffness as well. And also the ride height. It can change between really low up to off-road plus, which is really high. Obviously, you want to see that again, top right corner for the full video. Otherwise, 140 was nice. The only thing I don't like about this car is its CV value. 0.3, which is quite high. That is very high. The Cupra Tavascan, for instance, has 0.26, which is quite a lot lower. And that means this car is not that good when it comes to drag coefficient, and therefore it is going to have a high consumption. And if I'm not mistaken, with the 80 kilometers an hour test behind the truck, we had the highest consumption we've ever had on any test so far. So I think that kind of shows you how inefficient this car is. But if you're spending $110,000 or euros, then I guess you don't really care about, well, the consumption of this car. But otherwise, like I said, quite nice in here to drive, very comfortable. But let's see you at the end. Until then.
And now probably to the most interesting part, which is going to be the consumption of the car and all of the other details, as you can see on the list that I've provided in the back there. The car is going to be the highest consumption when it comes to low speed, so 100 kilometers an hour behind the truck, 18.6 kilowatts an hour, and an average speed of 79.27 kilometers an hour, with a total time of 66 minutes, which with my current plan, which is the ENBW medium plan at 49 cents per kilowatts hour plus 5.99 per month, that's going to cost you 9 euros and 11 cents. Just for comparison, a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which we already had a 14.6 kilowatts an hour consumption there. Even a Kia EV9, which is an absolutely massive car, had a consumption of 14 kilowatts an hour. So I don't know what happened there with the Audi SQ6, but that is a very high consumption. If you were to completely drain the car empty with that, so 100 down to 0%, you'd be looking at 511 kilometers of total range. For the 120 kilometers an hour test, we had a consumption of 22.9, so not too much of a jump, and that is a little bit closer to its competitors. Kia EV9 there, for instance, had a 28.7, so very high comparing to that. But if you compare it to, for instance, something like a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, we had a consumption of 21.2 there, so again, not as bad as you might expect there. With an average speed of 113.7 and 46 minutes, with a total cost of 11 euros and 22, with a theoretical range of 414 kilometers. Then for the 140 kilometers an hour test, we sadly didn't get a speed that was actually higher, but most of the times we did still push up to 140. So take this value with a grain of salt. We only got a consumption of 24.2, definitely would have been a lot higher, maybe even around 28. With an average speed of the exact same 113.74, with a total time of 46 minutes, with a theoretical range of 392 and a total cost of 11 euros and 86 cents. So again, not too much of a difference. Then for the top speed test, we had an average consumption of 37.9, with a total speed of 130.8 as our average, which again isn't the highest, but still fairly decent. And most of the times we were actually, well, often we were able to reach those 210 kilometers an hour of top speed due to the winter tires. Total time there, 40 minutes, with a cost of 18 euros and 57 cents and a theoretical range of 250 kilometers an hour. Let me know what you thought about that. Did you expect it to be higher? Did you expect it to be lower? And what do you think of the car in general? Let me know in the comments. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.